everything we watch and we learned, what is one thing that you took away from that round of games, Peter?
The one thing that I learned during the divisional round is, well, your team, they can turn it around. The Washington Commanders were a 4-13 team a year ago. 4-13 team, the second worst record in all of football. They fired their head coach. They got rid of their general manager. They had nothing at quarterback, and they didn't necessarily have the skill position players that you would desire to go to if you were a team looking to, play in the NFC Championship round the next season. They first hired Adam Peters. GM had been recruited by other teams but didn't get the jobs. Adam Peters is the guy on the right. That's Josh Harris, the owner, on the left. Adam Peters comes in as the general manager, fresh off a stint with San Francisco, but before that, had history with Denver, had history with New England. Young, fresh, going to bring things from different organizations to this organization here. They danced with Ben Johnson. It didn't happen. Instead, they hired Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn, a defensive coordinator who was coming from the Dallas Cowboys, but also had history as a coach who had been there to the Super Bowl at the top of the mountain with the Atlanta Falcons, but also the Seattle Seahawks. At Dan Quinn's opening press conference, here's what he had to say about the Commanders' task ahead.
You know, as a coach who has done it before, I knew then what I was looking for. You know, I think when you're first going through it as a first time, you got to go get it and you got to go take it. After you've been through the experience, you want to make sure that you can align it exactly like you want to do to go kick ass. And so that's what I was, looking for specific markers, because if I wasn't going to find them, then I wasn't going to do it. And I desperately wanted to, but if the markers weren't in line to say, hey, this alignment between ownership, general manager, the club, I wouldn't have. So when this one was here, it was, please call.
And in short order, they hired Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator. They got Joe Witt as the defensive coordinator. And then they drafted this guy. Second overall, Jaden Daniels comes as the savior to Washington football. And he has not only been that, he has exceeded expectations. He's not only been the best rookie quarterback in football, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in all of football. Then they go to the rest of the draft. And in the later rounds, they had to make picks too. Here's a sneaky one who made the biggest plays of that Lions NFC divisional round upset. Let's go to the draft again for, day 2. And who was selected there?
With the 50th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Mike Sanderstill, defensive back, Michigan.
My goodness gracious. We're turning Cadillac Square into the big house.
That's Rich Eisen excited because that's a Michigan man who made all the big plays in college and then was the second-round pick behind Jaden Daniels, and then goes to Detroit this past weekend and is the most dominant defensive player on that field. Look, it wasn't just we hired the right coach or we hired the right GM or we got the quarterback. They got a second-round pick who's starting at corner and has been outstanding as well. And then they decorated that roster in March with all the right free agent veteran leaders. You're talking about Zach Ertz, Bobby Wagner, Marcus Mariota, Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin, Nick Allegretti, Dorrance Armstrong's played a big role, Dante Fowler. These were all free agent signings that nobody had as the top guy on the board, but that made sense for Washington. In a matter of just 1 year, and less than 1 year, if you consider Dan Quinn didn't get there till February, the Washington Commanders went from the joke of the league to maybe the gold standard onto how to rebuild a franchise. They were a 4-13 team a year ago. They got the right GM, who hired the right coach. They got the right quarterback. They got the right defensive player in the second round. And then they got all the right veterans around that. Oh, and by the way, hired the right offensive coordinator, the right defensive coordinator, and all of it seems to be working. My message is for Jets fans. My message is for Raiders fans. My message is for Browns, Titans, Jaguars, any of the downtrodden franchises right now in the NFL. It could happen. There's hope. The Commanders just showed us you can change your things and you can change your team. You can do so with the right moves.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody.
The Giants could do it. The Jets could do it. They can all do it.
It's all right there, Kyle.
It's very positive. It's very constructive. I actually am going to respond to Peter. Peter, I see the Washington example of changing everything as the false god of changing everything. I see it as if you're trying to do what Washington's doing, it's like you're chasing waterfalls. I think you're fooling yourself. Mostly important because if you are a downtrodden franchise, you are not going to change owners. That is almost definitely not going to happen. And that is a massive, massive part of what happened to Washington. I don't think if the prior regime and ownership is still there, we're having this conversation. I certainly don't think they're playing this weekend, and I have decades of experience to show it. You're not going to change owners. It's almost definitely not going to happen. So you're not going to have that benefit. Also, I think that Jaden Daniels is an anomaly. I don't think he's just the next cool young quarterback. I don't think there'll be a Jaden Daniels in this draft or the next draft or the one after that. And I've talked about this a lot, is that he's not only doing exceptional things as a rookie in the playoffs, winning 2 road games, he's doing it in a way that no rookie quarterback has ever done. And you can talk about Roethlisberger or Sanchez or Flacco. Those guys had insane lights-out, sometimes all-time historic defenses, which Jaden Daniels does not. I don't think he is just a cool young quarterback. I don't think you're going to get Jaden Daniels. So those teams are outliers. I don't think you're going to get him. Also, I don't think Dan Quinn grows on trees. Yeah. I don't think there is a plug-and-play Dan Quinn out there. Remember this. Find me another coach who has an historic meltdown in the Super Bowl that would break most coaches and most human beings, and the next year has that team back in the divisional round of the playoffs. I am almost at this point, we're so far removed from 28-3, I almost am looking at it as a positive for Dan Quinn because I'm so impressed that he recovered from it. It's incredible. It really is that happened. So to those teams, I would also love to give you a message of hope, especially on a day when the Bears hire a new coach, and maybe the Jets will as well. And maybe you will. But don't, in my opinion, look at Washington and say, we can also do that. Not like that, you can't. You may find a way, but you're not going to have a new owner, you're not going to have Jaden Daniels, and you're probably not going to have Dan Quinn. So look elsewhere. Sorry to be a skeptic, but look at the Commanders. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And to speak to hope, Kyle and Peter, I think there's still hope in this old idea when you talk about what I've learned from the divisional round, and that the run game still works. And having a team that is rooted in the run game. I look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and I've seen just kind of their storyline. And I'm watching a team that came into the playoffs as the 29th ranked passing offense. This is a team that is going to be playing in the NFC Championship on the heels of a strong running game. Saquon Barkley, we all know it, and we've all felt the pain. We talked about it like almost till we've been nauseated about how the Giants just gave up on Saquon Barkley and how we've seen the devaluation of the running backs. And he has literally brought that idea back. The Philadelphia Eagles, they are a team that is rooted in a strong run game and rooted in a strong defense. And that recipe is enough to get you that old school football, but get you to the championship. I'd start looking at some of the other teams in the playoffs, and you're looking at the 2nd ranked offense and with the Lions or passing game, and you're looking at the 7th ranked passing game with the Ravens, and you're looking at some of these top 10 teams who are in the passing game, and you don't need it. And we haven't seen that from Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has contributed to the run game. Saquon Barkley is the run game. This defense is very, very strong. I really, truly believe when I look at, the Jalen Hurts production, and it's just crazy to even think when we're thinking about the matchup going into the NFC Championship, 259 yards. That's the amount of passing yards that the Eagles have had in the last 2 games. That's Jaden Daniels had, 17 yards less in the first half against Detroit. And it just lets you know how strong that passing game is. So we're going to be looking at the old school principle of winning. Like, this is what all the old school coaches want. A strong defense and a strong run game going up against this high-powered passing offense. It's going to be interesting to watch to see which one wins out. And if we start to see the valuation of running backs come back, where we go, we can't discount them anymore. They do make a difference. They are important.
It is nice.